I wanted to talk about my witch name that I recently have found after some thought, and that took a long time to even figure out, let alone trying to find an alternative to what I originally wanted, um, which is the Dragon's Weaver. Um, and it took me all day after posting the video on all my platforms about it of how I was even going to make the introduction video to it, explaining the name behind it and all that. The original idea partially came from some of my tattoos, which most of my tattoos have some spiritual meaning to me. Um, I do have two dragon tattoos. I am also a dragon, draconic, and draconian witch, and I am also a high priestess that is draconic and draconian. And dragon, I guess you can assume all three as well. Um, After many years of learning and then some. Um, but I also have a spider tattoo. Eventually, I'll get some webs. When that will happen, I'm not sure. I got one tattoo I need to do first before I add the webs. And then finding the right person for that because of the spiritual meaning that I want behind the webs. Um, to me, the idea of the name obviously does involve dragons. Obviously, behind, the name. Um, but when it comes to the second part of the name, Weaver, obviously most people think, like looming, with a spindle, making fabrics, whether it's clothing, blankets, uh, rugs, stuff of that nature. But if you go the spiritual way, you'll also have, I think the more, um, modern depiction of like the fates in Greek mythology, like Hercules. If you go back and watch one of the scenes of the fates when they're weaving someone's life, they're using a spindle to basically weave their life before cutting it when they pass. Um, as a spiritual like example of also a modern day example of that. So for me, it's similar of the nature, but to me, it would also mean with the dragons incorporating so many other things. Um, like I, I'm on so many paths I can't even keep count half the time. I'm trying to. It's not easy to remember all at once. I literally have to sit there until I can remember another one. Um, but it's kind of incorporating, again, you can incorporating many other pantheons, of course, you know, keeping in mind cultural appropriation with majority of these pantheons, especially when they're closed, which I don't want to do. Obviously, I'll acknowledge that and all that. But incorporating it, learning, which is the main thing when it comes to dragons, is learning knowledge. They crave knowledge. They love when you want to learn things, appropriate knowledge of learning it, not learning misinformation and like actually taking it as information and not realizing that's not correct information, as an example. um but also like incorporating other magics, like my friend Dragon Alchemy. That's to me an example. Or there again, there's a lot. You can incorporate other mythical creatures. Just finding correlations that can help with it, and just kind of even finding relations with dragons and other beings, whether it's entities, deities, anything of the sort. Um, like, for instance, I know gargoyles aren't very talked about very often in the spiritual community. It's very tiny that I can ever find. I have tried hard. I tried so hard to look for things about gargoyles spiritually. It's damn near impossible. I've tried. Everything I find out is mostly architectural and mostly Christian. But obviously, most of it didn't start off as Christian. It just kind of, you see it more with Christians based off of the church, especially of cathedrals and places like that, because of the meaning behind them. But they are a cousin of dragons, as an example. There's also the Fae. There are some Fae that are cousins to dragons as well. Not all, but there are some. I know some depictions find Basculus, sorry, pronunciation's horrible, as a fae, but also a dragon, per example. There's also, there's deities with a dragon face, as another depiction. You also got Melusine, who's French, German, pantheon. She is mostly a fae mermaid, well, siren mermaid, but she also has a dragon face, which is another example, like, just the kind of the weaving incorporations of many things, and kind of just weaving it in. This is all just kind of blurting, getting this all out all in one go, because I did not plan what I'm saying right now. This is all just regurgitating everything, and kind of just coming up with ideas on the spot, because it's like I know internally, it's just putting it into words up here has been my problem all day. But also incorporating other things together as well. Creating, I'm trying to think of either the correct term or another term, like creating a relationship, whether it's been established or not. I think that's the correct term. And again, this is definitely going to have to include a lot of research. Some I have already unintentionally have already done. My brain's been hurting all day, and this is not making it easier. But it's also kind of, taking a lot of gifts if you have more than one, and then kind of using multiple or more than one at a time to communicate, or I think that's, again, this is the start. I'm still trying to physically interpret what I'm understanding. I'm just gonna give an example. Like, sometimes I'll be doing everyday things, and next thing I know, I'll say something, not really thinking of it, and finding out that person was thinking word for word what I just said. I'm not even thinking. I'm just, I just say it, or they're not even thinking about it at that moment, and then they're like, oh yeah, or something along that sort. Last week, I was at an antique store, looking for Christmas presents and crystals just to see if there were anything that I might have liked. And I found a really good, decent crystal case. And before that, at one of the places, I was going back and forth, between rows, and saw this younger couple come in, and they were kind of going back and forth. And then they got kind of closer towards the same way that I had come from. They got closer, and I immediately said, "If you're looking for crystals, they're right here." She's like, she knew. I was like, "I saw you guys came in and kind of had the feeling that it was probably one of the things you were looking for. Like, you kind of had the vibe for it, I guess." And then we got to talking about that and a bunch of other things like my tattoo. He, I can't remember the word, but he was thinking it was, the symbol for health, like the Greek health symbol with the staff and the one serpent on it. But it's a dragon and a sword, and that's what he thought because he has one on his forearm. And we were talking about that just unironically. It's kind of like one of those things, like, not even thinking about it, like, just, and like I was just dropping information on them. Her boyfriend was giving me, they were kind of giving me a little information that I didn't know or had forgotten about. It was just one of those things, like, you're not even thinking about it, and then you're just giving them information that they might have been already looking for, and stuff of that nature. Of course, you could say it's like clairaudience or whatever it is, but I'm like, I have that. I have quite a few more. My problem is I don't have full control of it. On rare occasions I can. Otherwise, it just happens. I just let it happen. Like being a medium, I don't really have control over it. I have tried. Only problem with me is it's one-way communication. I can hear them. I try to say something. I don't usually get a response back. Not always. Depending on who and what it is. But it's just kind of weaving more than one thing in. It doesn't have to be specifically dragons, but I would like to start incorporating some of that stuff in a little bit more. But it's just incorporating multiple things in with each other appropriately, especially culturally appropriately. And of course, if someone does find something that doesn't seem right culturally, please let me know, because I might have missed something in any of the research I have or will be doing. Literally, please tell me, because I don't want to find out after the fact when it's way too late. Again, I would rather have someone say, "Hey, this isn't right," and then they say whatever, and then I'm like, go do my research and be like, "I am so sorry, I missed that or forgot," because again, there's so much information, but you can learn a lot of things, but you can't always retain all the information you would like. And that's the part that sucks. I love learning things, but I always forget parts of what I'm learning, especially when I love to learn it, which is why I have a crap ton of books. Doesn't mean I've read all of them, but I'm trying to get there. But it's, sorry, burp. But I guess that is how I want to kind of start my witch name. And I guess in a way, my own extra path, that I don't know if anyone has even started something like it. If anyone has, please let me know. But as far as I know, I don't know of anyone doing something similar like this. I know most people tend to walk multiple paths, but incorporating it in with other things of a similar nature, I don't often see. Obviously, I see people still hurting other people, but they tend to kind of stick to just the one or two, sometimes a few more paths, um, but not as broad, maybe. At least not from what I've seen. Um, but I want to broaden that kind of stuff, at least for myself. Um, I'll try to keep updates. It might not be as frequent, um, just because I have a lot of other things going on personally right now, as you can tell, not by choice. Um, so I guess this is the best introduction video to my witch name and the stuff behind it. So, yeah.